It's a cold, sad night in central New York, both outside and inside the JMA Wireless Dome. It was supposed to be a celebration. The last time Dino Babers' valiant group of seniors and NFL hopeful underclassmen stepped on Ernie Davis Legends Field. Instead, Syracuse got Seminoled. 23rd ranked Florida State ran up, around, and through the Orange defense, sending most of central New York home early. Whether you went home at halftime or stayed until the final buzzer, happy you could join us right now for Orange Press Pass. Let's get it started. We welcome you inside the CitrusTV studios alongside Jesse Cook and Steven Sklar. I'm Ian Unsworth. Florida State 38, Syracuse 3. The final score from the JMA Dome. Guys, a game that felt like it was over from the first drive. Let's bite the bullet, Jesse. What's on your mind?
Biting the bullet, Syracuse has absolutely no diversity in the play calling realm. Look, maybe we're not the best people to ask about this. I'm pretty sure my huddle page said I had a great personality in high school, but Syracuse had absolutely nothing working for them during this game, and it stemmed from the fact that they kept beating a dead horse in Sean Tucker, not going to go very far, and then they left out one of their best targets in Oronde Gadsden.
Yeah, the passing game not going very far either of the last 2 weeks, especially today. Last week it was Carlos Del Rio Wilson. Today it was Garrett Schrader back with QB1. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who you start under center for this team because Syracuse looks as lost as they have all season.
Garrett Schrader was back today. The final score, 38-3. We are obligated here on Orange Press Pass to show you the highlights. We will do just that. There is QB1 warming up, drinking his water. He was slated to start. The question, was he healthy? Well, it didn't matter because after a 3-and-out on SU's first drive, Jordan Travis punches it in from 3 yards out. Florida State as a team ran for 230 yards on the day. Travis getting the scoring started. On FSU's next drive later on in the first quarter, he finds Malik McClain outside. He breaks Jeremiah Wilson's tackle and slides into the end zone. Jesse, broken tackle's a problem all day for the SU defense.
Obviously, and that's not even the only one-on-one battle that Syracuse lost in the game, just debacles everywhere.
You think SU might get some momentum back in the second quarter as Darren McDonald forces a fumble. Justin Barron hops on top of it, but the Orange would go negative 12 yards in the next 3 plays. They'd only make it to halftime with a field goal. It's 14-3 FSU, and now Johnny Wilson shakes Deuce Chestnut. See ya later, 0. The 6'7" receiver into the end zone. It's 21-3 Seminoles. That's how it would be at half. The best scoring option in the JMA Dome tonight was Carmelo Anthony, Steven.
Yeah, I wish they could have gotten him on the field, use that frame, stretch him outside. Maybe he would have caught a couple of passes from Garrett Schrader tonight.
The same story in the third quarter. Kentron Poiter breaks through SU's zone coverage, makes it 31-3 Noles. And then cherry on top, Jordan Travis, a trick play. He's catching the passes this time around from Wyatt Rector. It was easy money for FSU, 38-3 the final. No dice for Syracuse on senior day. The Orange don't manage much of anything offensively. Garrett Schrader in his return, 6 for 17, 52 yards.
And it doesn't help that Sean Tucker, when he came into this year, had a combined 5 games where he rushed for fewer than 100 yards. It's all the way up to 7 on this season alone now.
And Florida State cooking on the other side of the football. Trey Benson, 18 carries, 163 yards, and that's barely scratching the surface of this mean FSU rushing attack from today.
Syracuse had given up over 700 yards of rushing offense over the past 3 games, and again, it's the same old story. We're now joined by our reporter Trey Redfield, who had a first-hand view of this beatdown. Trey, first of all, I'm sorry. Second of all, coming into this game, that Noles rushing attack was tops in the ACC. What were your impressions of FSU's running backs?
Ian, I was very impressed by this Florida State run game, and the big reason why was because Trey Benson was the one leading the way. He had himself over 160 yards on the ground, but he didn't have any touchdowns, which is totally fine because he was the reason why the Seminoles were getting into the red zone in the first place. Yeah, Jordan Travis had himself all the touchdowns, 3 in the air, 1 on the ground, and even a receiving catch. But the big reason why FSU put up all those points tonight was because Benson was the one leading the way. Travis may be the accelerator, but Benson was the engine tonight.
Now, Trey, Rondé Gadsden was one of Garrett Schrader's top targets all season long, but the past 2 weeks, a combined 1 reception. Why has this offense for the Orange been underusing WR1 so much?
Jesse, we're not seeing much of a Rondé Gadsden is because opposing defenses are finding ways to adjust, and they understand that there's no second option yet for Syracuse. Odd that I'm saying yet, even though we're 2 games remaining in the regular season, but Gadsden is getting double covered left and right. But when he's getting open, it's either Schrader or Del Rio Wilson that can't get the football to him. They're throwing the ball behind them. They're underthrowing their best target, whether he's a wide receiver or a tight end. They really got to find a way to find Gadsden once again, because this issue only gets bigger with the fact that they don't have that second option. When that first option isn't there, this offense goes to toast, and there's only so much that Sean Tucker can do on the ground.
Trey, you look at the Orange from the first half of the season and compare them to the Orange that we've seen in the second half of the season. What's happened to that urgency and tenacity that Syracuse was playing from games 1 through 6 to now?
The tenacity and the urgency has gone down because simply Syracuse is on a 4-game losing streak, but during this skid, guys are getting banged up left and right. We even saw that at the start of the year when it was a cupcake schedule to begin 2022 with Louisville, with UConn, Wagner, and even NC State. But when Death Valley came around, everything started to go downhill. And sometimes it only takes one loss for things to go downhill and for that avalanche to begin. You guys have to remember, this was expected. A lot of us predicted that Syracuse was going to ease through the first part of its schedule, but then when ACC play came around, that's when the losses were coming about. And now we're seeing it as a reality. And it's unfortunate that the tenacity and the urgency is going down with it as well, because there are some folks that are saying that this team could lose out, including the bowl game.
Trey, all things considered, I'd say a bowl is a success for Dino Babers and crew. Thanks for your time. Go home, rest up. You're not the only one that needs it. Coming up on Orange Press Pass, Jesse and Steven have a lot more to say about the quarterback play on both sides of the ball and a lack of options on the perimeter. Stay tuned.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
In times like these, let's not mourn a lost football game, but celebrate the life of the Syracuse football season.
Yeah, the Orange were 6-0, bowl eligible for the first time since 2018, and things were looking up.
But much like a quarterback scrambling for the sidelines, Syracuse had to be ready for some late hits.
The early season hype train carried Syracuse into its first test of the season, a battle against Clemson down in Death Valley. Now, even though it seemed like SU had the game in the bag after halftime, a late hit by lineman Elijah Fuentes derailed Syracuse's chance at a conference title shot. Led by backup quarterback Cade Klubnik, the Tigers handed SU its first loss of the season.
And you could call Clemson a crossroads in the campaign. However, the game that followed had absolutely no turning points. Notre Dame nabbed a pick six on the first play, and with that, the epitaph for the Orange was written in stone.
The only thing worse than getting pummeled to death is getting bored to death, and that's what Syracuse did in its next game at Pitt. With second-string quarterback Carlos Del Rio Wilson under center, the Orange looked lifeless from start to finish.
For a squad on life support, the final home game could feel like a last stand, but the heart monitor rapidly dropped as the Orange plummeted to a loss of epic proportions.
Welcome back to the place to be if you're into games with the final score of 38-3. FSU over Syracuse, easy in the Dome in the CitrusTV studios. Ian Unsworth, you just saw Jesse Cook and Steven Sklar rewinding what has been a pretty dismal stretch for SU football. Let's get into some of the nuts and bolts. Jordan Travis today, excellent. He completed 91% of his passes. Dino Babers called him much improved in his weekly presser, and it showed today.
Well, absolutely. That 91% stat is something that I really like, Ian, because that's his best performance ever as far as pass completion, and it's the first time he ever cracked above 90%. Also, what are you going to do? The man had 5 combined touchdowns, passing, rushing, and receiving. I'm a Patriots fan. That Philly special brought back some bad memories, Stephen.
Yeah, and that's really when you knew that the final nail was kind of hammered into that coffin. But he didn't just have to do it by himself. Yes, it was a very efficient performance, but he wasn't lighting up the box score in other ways other than the scoring department. He had 155 yards passing, so he didn't have to do it as a traditional passer today, but he does have that athleticism, and he's able to use his legs to his advantage and, make plays, extend plays, and get his team down into scoring drives with those.
It helps when your running game is churning out 6 or 7 yards of pop. On the other side, we weren't sure which QB was going to start for the Qs today. Carlos Del Rio Wilson played the last 6 quarters of football coming in, but Garrett Schrader, 100% today. He might have been healthy. It didn't really help the offense, Stephen.
Yeah, it didn't really help at all. Again, Syracuse setting a new season low in passing yards today. Only worse than last week against Pitt. That's why I opened up with it didn't really matter who you had under center. Garrett Schrader turned in an abysmal performance. There's no other way of saying it. And as in terms of throwing the ball, he didn't look great, and running the ball also. He just hasn't looked the same since that Notre Dame game when he came out at halftime.
Yeah, isn't that the draw of Garrett Schrader, that he's a two-way quarterback? He can run, he can throw, but more importantly, yes, he can run. But he takes 3 sacks in the loss. That's not the Garrett Schrader that started the season. I'm not sure it's the Garrett Schrader that Syracuse fans have ever seen, because he left last season being touted as the main guy. And again, passing percentage under 40% for the second time this season, only the 3rd time he's done that in Orange, one of his worst marks since he played at Mississippi State. It's just a terrible cataclysm of events for Garrett Schrader that has led to this season.
Only threw for 65 yards. He took 3 sacks. 6 for 16, his passing line. It's not like he was missing wide open throws. Damian Alford was the only wideout with multiple catches today for the Orange. And this receiver depth has been a problem all year long.
Well, isn't Damian Alford getting multiple receptions kind of a relief for Syracuse fans? Because we've complained week after week about how Oronde Gadsden, well, yes, he's the main target. He's been overused. I think really the problem for Syracuse is that they quit on Gadsden cold turkey. So after that Clemson game where Schrader looks to Gadsden in triple coverage on the final play of the game for an obvious interception, maybe they take a step back, but you can't overcorrect like that, because then 1 reception for your main guy in the past 2 weeks, unacceptable. And also Sean Tucker is 1 reception, negative yards in the first half. Come on, you're not using your main targets the way they're intended.
Yeah, I love that you bring up Sean Tucker too, because he can be stretched out wide as a receiver too. You don't even have to stretch him out wide. You can run routes with him out of the backfield, and they're not really utilizing him as much in the passing game as I would like to see. But today we got a good look at what this wide receiving core would look like without Gadsden, because he was barely involved. And let me tell you this, it's not deep enough, it's not talented enough, and really it won't survive without Gadsden involved.
With the FSU offense in a state of struggle, it wasn't very difficult to pick out our Orange Press Pass player of the game. It was Jordan Travis. He was 21 of 23 passing. He had 4 total touchdowns and also caught 1 for good measure, and he gave the Orange defense fits all day. While Jordan Travis was giving the SU defense problems, Central New Yorkers were throwing fits on Twitter. We'll check out some sour oranges in 90 seconds. Stick with us.
Here's to the straggly ones, the lopsided ones, The first ones. Yeah, I miss my beard ones. But hey, I look good with this ones. But no way he's grown that in the weak ones. The black, brown, red, and gray ones. That one. The itchy ones. The never forgotten ones. The ones grown by Dad. The ones grown for Dad. The started late ones. The absolutely filthy ones. The drawn-on ones. The finger ones. The pin ones. The I nearly didn't do it this year ones. And the yeah, why not ones. They all raise awareness, raise funds, start conversations, and save lives. Because whatever you grow will save a bro. Learn more at Movember.com.
OTN is on all your favorite apps. Apple TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Search Orange Television Network or OTN. OTN has its best shows, short films, and CitrusTV on demand. Family and friends can watch OTN too. Watch the live stream of OTN to catch live CitrusTV news, live from Studio B, and mornings on the Hill. On or off campus, watch OTN anywhere.
Back on Orange Press Pass after 23rd ranked Florida State's 38-3 win over Syracuse. Jesse Cook, Stephen Sklar over there. I'm Ian Unsworth. So in a game like this, where it was in no way, shape, or form close, people get bored, and like we've all done every once in a while, they turn to social media to air their grievances, express their frustrations. Sour Oranges is our game of the week. We're looking at some tweets from angry SU fans. We begin with former SUD lineman Josh Black, who's probably still waiting for that SU sideline to get fired up.
Yeah, let's just say that Dino Babers is not the motivator he thinks he is. He thinks he's Felicia Leggett Jack coming out with all these prophetic phrases, but he's more like Gary Gait for men's lacrosse. Now, the difference is Gary Gait knows how to set the tone and he knows when to put it down. Dino Babers, he's out there with smoke and mirrors trying to make this seem like a good season, and it really isn't. First of all, your quarterback, Garrett Trader, he's a $6 million man on a budget. Dude is made of broken glass at this point. He was walking around in a boot first few months of the season. How are you going to motivate that when he might have an apparent head injury too? Who knows?
And listen, the juice in this team got lost once they hit that tough ACC slate. I mean, they hit an absolute wall once the competition started to get tough. It's not the cupcake part of the schedule anymore. Those first 6 games where they're going up against UConn and Wagner and even a banged-up NC State team without Devin Leary at quarterback, they've really got to face the toughest part of the competition that the ACC has to offer, and it shows that they're really just not able to handle it.
It's possible to win games when your team isn't super excited. Our second tweet comes from user Will Cave, who found an NCAA 14 rendition of Mike Norvell's offense somewhere, tried to give it to the Orange, but SU still couldn't stop it.
I mean, there's no reason that Florida State shouldn't just run the ball, set the screen out wide. I mean, they were doing it all game, and they were doing it successfully, too. They're going up against a team like Syracuse that's middle of the pack in the ACC in run defense. They're really not able to put the clamps on FSU when they're playing to their strengths, because FSU's strengths are also Syracuse's weaknesses.
It's pretty easy to just say copy and paste for every play in that second half. I mean, it was a 21-point deficit that Syracuse had to overcome. If you're smart, if you're not Dan Quinn, it's pretty easy to salt that game away. And Syracuse, the Salt City, a lot of fans just got high cholesterol on that and had to leave after halftime because it's not even worth watching.
Florida State ran for 121 yards in the second half, and it kind of leads us to tweet number 3. Straight out of Upstate Medical, another injury for the Syracuse defense today. Jahad Carter left the game on crutches. It looks like a lower body injury, and it just continues the theme of a decimated Orange defense. Stephen, we need a MASH unit. Stat.
Well, yeah, but I'm not going to sit here and say that the injuries have everything to do with it. I mean, I was getting into it a little bit before. This schedule is just getting tougher and tougher and tougher. And with the preseason expectations that we had for Syracuse, the fact that they're even 6-4 right now is a blessing. So we really shouldn't have come to expect as much as we are out of Syracuse. And the issue is that we're starting to expect too much. The injuries have very little to do with the issues that Syracuse is dealing with down the stretch.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I mean, Garrett Williams, one of the motivators on this team, a trendsetter, he's out of the picture, and he's not the only one. I mean, take a look back at that. I mean, think back to that Josh Black tweet from a couple ago. When your main guys are out of the roster, how are you going to get that juice in the lineup? How are you going to get that momentum?
And
it's unbelievable.
You know, Garrett Williams, one of the guys that's up there, he would have been really good to stop a passing attack today had FSU actually unloaded, but they really didn't. That's why I say that it wasn't too big of an issue, because FSU really never tested Syracuse in the areas that they're the most banged up in.
Well, it's not like they had to, but again, with these injuries, I mean, Steven, at a certain point, Dino Baber is going to be asking for strays on campus. You or I might have to get out there, and I think we're a combined 6 feet total, so I'm not sure it's going to help very much.
Put me in the slot.
With Jihad Carter down, that's now 4 starters Syracuse is missing and a couple depth pieces as well. Unfortunately, there's a precedent for this thing around the Hill. Dino Babers, now in his tenure at SU, is 5-19 in the month of November. Jesse, why?
Well, this is when the meat of the schedule begins. It happens in every sport. Take a look at the Olympic sports on campus, too. They start out with all these games against, Central New York opponents, Siena, UAlbany, teams that aren't really supposed to put up a challenge. They're just supposed to get hype around the team. Now is when you get into the real teams, you get into the ranked opponents, and the season starts to wind down. This is where you make your money, and if you're Syracuse, you're coming out poor.
And this is where Dino gets to make his money also. 6-0 already. He's already solidified his future as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't look like he's going anywhere anytime soon. He can sit back on that 6-0 record from the first half of the season and just cakewalk until the end of it. He got them bowl eligible. He exceeded expectations. Trying in this second half of the season isn't really something that he has to do.
Maybe I can't talk because I'm wearing a $15 watch, but that's a pretty expensive 6-0 for Syracuse athletics.
But a bowl is enough. I think everybody would agree that a bowl is enough, and that's enough screen time for us because it's bad for the brain. Sorry, Elon. We're getting off the Bluebird. We'll wrap things up on Orange Press Pass with a look around the nation and clothing thoughts.
They took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
We're taking you home on Orange Press Pass. Honestly, I'd hope you're already home because it is late. But Syracuse down 38-3 on Senior Day against number 23 Florida State. Jesse Cook, Steven Sklar, probably the most boring game you could have asked for on the day. There were a lot of exciting ones around NCAA football. Let's take a look here. You've got Bama Ole Miss with the SEC West potentially on the line. North Carolina securing a spot in the ACC Championship, a big-time G5 ranked matchup, Pac-12 action. It was all over the place today in college football.
I have to say, one thing that I sort of expected is UCF to pop off. I mean, Tulane is a good team, but look, you know me, I'm a Cincinnati Bearcats fan. After they handled those guys, UCF is a pretty strong squad. How about Vanderbilt? That's a surprise.
What about this? This is a surprise too. UConn 36-33 over Liberty. It doesn't have a number up there, but Liberty is number 19 in the AP poll. UConn's going bowling now. That's 6 wins for them, and they did it over a team that's been strong and played tough competition all season long. That's a very solid win for that Huskies team.
And when you look at Washington as well, another set of Huskies that is keeping Oregon on the fritz now. A lot of one-loss teams in the Pac-12 competing for a spot in the championship, potential playoff implications out there. Guys, what about North Carolina? This is a team that was expected to underachieve, and now with Drake May, the freshman QB, a high-flying offense, they're tops the Coastal.
I'm a big fan of the light blue. The Tar Heels are really doing it for me. And Wake Forest, and that's the opposite reaction. They're a team who was supposed to be one of the #1 teams, at least in the ACC, and they're squandering.
UNC, this is a team that I have tabbed to win the ACC. I think that whoever they go up with, inevitably it'll probably be Clemson, but UNC's got the best shot at stealing this conference. They're a good team, high-flying offense, like you said. The offense that they have there is just super energized, and they have what it takes to win this conference.
Let's quickly dig into the ACC standings a bit more. Clemson's got its fate locked up. 9-1, undefeated in the conference, a team that's going to that championship game.
I have to say, I expected, I'm a hater on DJ Uiagalelei. I expected him to underachieve. Clearly, I have to eat my words. It's really a rough feeling from a betting standpoint. Granted, I'm not a betting man, so I didn't lose anything except my pride, but there's not very much of that left.
Yeah, but it's big of you to actually sit up here and admit that you were wrong when you have to admit that. But listen, Clemson, not the powerhouse that we're used to seeing, but still a good team and a brand name at best. Like I said, when they inevitably go up against UNC in that championship game, I'm interested to see how things play out. I think UNC's got the better offense, but Clemson, they've got the coaching, they've got the experience, they've got everything else and the hype that goes around it too. There's no reason to count them out when they get to that championship game.
The Tigers handled Louisville today. Up next for Syracuse is Wake Forest, a team that lost to UNC 36-34, but still has a high-flying offense, came to the Dome last year and beat Syracuse in OT.
Well, A.T. Perry, one of the top receivers in the ACC right now, he's a guy to definitely watch out for, and he tore it up against Syracuse last season. He's got a pretty solid pair of hands, and the Orange defense might not be up to the task anymore like they were last season.
Yeah, but the Demon Deacons on a 3-game losing streak too, so you have both teams coming into this. They're sort of on that downslope, both of them fighting to just get back in the winner's circle. So I think this is going to be a heavy slugfest. Both teams are going to come in with, emotionally charged, looking to get that win. I think it'll be a very good game. Hopefully, we see a Syracuse team that's up for the task.
Hopefully we see a very good game, but today we did not get one. FSU 38, SU 3. Well, it's time for final thoughts. Jesse, we'll start with you.
Look, I'm going to take my watch off, call the time of death on this Syracuse football season. It's basketball season at this point. Everything on my watch points to Jim Boeheim o'clock. I want to see Jesse Edwards, not Garrett Schrader at this point. It's over.
I want to know what's next for Syracuse, but because like we were just saying, they have Wake Forest and they have Boston College. I just want to see how they respond to this now after this 4-game losing streak. Dino Babers is out here talking about family. We're a family. We win, we lose as a family, all of this. But put a product out there on the field that shows us that, because this team has looked so discombobulated. They haven't looked like they've been on the same page in nearly a month now. So these next 2 games, it's really time for them to show that they're made for this bowl season that they've found themselves in.
That Ohana comment, that family stuff is a total myth with Dino Babers. If they're a family, they're getting a divorce sometime soon.
It's going to be tough to make things at the end close. That'll wrap things up on Orange Press Pass. If you missed anything from tonight's show, you can catch the replay on our CitrusTV YouTube page. Follow our Twitter as well at CitrusTV Sports. For Jesse Cook, Steven Sklar, our executive producer Lucas Vogel, and everybody else behind the scenes, I'm Ian Unsworth. Please get some sleep.